Hello and welcome inside a live midweek edition of the Scorers Table. My name is Brian Haenchen, joined by Danny Riego. Thank you guys for staying up and chit-chatting with us. A lot to get to. Again, Danny, just a banger of a week so far, and we still have sneakers for Santa to go. We're going to talk to North Central coach Fakara Hawkins, as well as Norwell seniors Vanessa, Rosswurm, Addison, Norris. Norwell coming off a massive win last night over Homestead. Danny, I think the best place to begin is at Lawrence North Central, which is where our first guest coaches at North Central. Big win tonight for the Wildcats, 62-57, a game that came down to the wire after the Wildcats led, I think, by 18 at one point there in the third quarter. Credit to North Central for battling back. That was a game, I'll just start the conversation here, then let you take it for a bit while I send out a tweet. But that was a game where both teams' youth showed up quite a bit. Lawrence North was giving me anxiety with how quickly they were trying to move the ball. I talked to Stephen Thomas afterwards, and the way he described it was like, it's like they were playing, like hoping that if they played faster, the time would go down a little bit quicker. And obviously that's not how it's going to work. And then on the North Central side, I think just a little bit of panic, I think is fair to say, with some of the rush shots that they took. But overall, learned a decent amount about both sides. I think Lawrence North is further along than maybe I would have expected, but they've been grinding, and you can tell like already the positive momentum they're building. And then North Central as well, you can tell that the pieces are there. They're an athletic group, and they were able to do some different things to Lawrence North with the pressure they were able to apply.
Yeah, I'll start with the Wildcats, the defending state champs. So I've seen them twice now. I saw them tonight, saw them live against Silver Creek. And I don't know that anybody really knows what to expect, but as I'm watching this game, like I'm kind of like making notes in my head. I was actually just jotting stuff down right now. Like Lawrence North doesn't win the state championship without Brooklyn Roberts last year. And the reason why I say that is because she had like the 4 second half threes against Lawrence Central in the sectional final, or the sectional game, the Lawrence sectional game. And she's back. Kalia Bentley, huge part of their state championship run. And Jada Wheat was in the rotation last year, somebody who they've been really high on, right? And those are 3 college basketball players. So the question was going to be, well, how is the freshman Beard going to be? How is Jordan Suggs going to be? And how are the dual last year JV post players that both were on the varsity basketball team during the state championship run going to mesh in Zion Hunt and Zoe Payton? Okay. And I got to tell you, like, I think there's a lot to like about Lawrence North. I don't know that I'm ready to say that they're going to beat Lawrence Central or beat Pike or be able to compete at the city level, you know, even against teams like Ben Davis and so on and so forth. But dude, Jordan Suggs, like I talked about her in the last time, like, dude, she's going to be a star. Like that kid's going to be an absolute star, because she already is. Like she's like 4 games into her season, and that's the person who seems to be getting she's looking calmer, she's looking stronger, she's looking more comfortable in varsity basketball. And I think there's a lot of people who probably haven't seen her play a lot of basketball, but in that whole, like, you know, vomited intro that I just had, like I mean, they've got like 6 or 7 college basketball players all playing for them right now. And so the thought that they're not going to be a good basketball team come January, come February, come sectional time, just put the tape on.
They're speaking of Suggs, I mean, she had a big 3. I think I tweeted out. I'll check my timeline, but she had some massive shots tonight, made some big plays, when offense was a bit stop and start for everybody, as it is with a lot of young teams. But Suggs had a huge 3-pointer there that got LN's lead up to 44-26 midway through the third. She was up to 16 points. She finished the game, Danny, with a lot of points. As I try to find that tweet, which I swear to gosh I just had. Literally walked in the door, hit the button to go live. 16 there for Jordan Suggs, 14 for Clea Bentley. But like you said, I mean, Suggs, you can tell like she's got it. And then another freshman we'll talk about here later tonight too, the kid at Franklin Central. But that 29's now, right? The 29 class, there's some really good talent there. And Suggs is certainly at the forefront. She looked like she belonged out there on the floor in that starting lineup from the jump. Really quick, really athletic, and a really smooth shot. I like watching that kid shoot from three. That was a lot of fun.
If you look back at a couple of episodes ago when we first talked about the defending state champs, I talked about Suggs, and I talked about her and how Steven dealt with her on the floor against Silver Creek down the stretch. And she was the one that got, I think I talked about how in 2 ATO situations, she got middle third touches and downhill attacks against Brooklyn Wren, which is not like something that you would think that any player would want, let alone a freshman playing like her second or third basketball game. Interestingly too, like, you know, Naja, and we'll talk about her. She was over on the other side. Kiki's obviously across town at Lawrence, but you just wonder if almost like Suggs is her development, I think, will accelerate and steepen because she has the ball and she's allowed to. I'm sure she's got a ton of rope that she's allowed to make mistakes and trial and error and just kind of see. But I think she looks really comfortable. When you watch Jordan Suggs play, the first thing that's going to jump out at you is going to be her physical presence. She doesn't look like a 29. She doesn't look like a kid. Second will be her strength, and the third will be, you know, kind of what you talked about statistics wise. Like, just seems like she had a lot of points. So she probably hit 4 or 5 threes. She got out in transition. You know, they threw the ball into her on the block. She's not because of her size. Also, she's not having to guard post players. So she can stay out of foul trouble. She can leave that honor to Zion Hunt and Zoe Payton. It's a well-constructed basketball team, but Jordan Suggs I think she's worth the watch, everybody.
She is really fun to watch. On the North Central side, Danny, the athleticism. You mentioned Naja Winston. Let's just start with Naja. She's waiting. She's sitting out the mandated 30 days from transferring as a senior at North Central. But I loved watching that kid on the bench. She's planted right next to the coaches up. And I think I texted you about this. I was like, I'm not sure if it's showing up on the screen, but Naja is super engaged, like cheering everybody on, chatting everybody up. And you said, oh, no, it's noticeable. Because, I mean, the kid, it's like if you didn't know better, you'd think she was an assistant coach, which you love to see. She's super engaged, super into it. It was cool when she got a ring, a nice ovation for her when she got the ring before tonight's game at her former high school. So that was a cool moment. And then a funny moment towards the end of the game as an assistant coach was stepping in for Fakar in tonight's game. But as he was kind of jawing the referee a little bit, and they were kind of having a moment, you see Naja pop up and immediately kind of pull him back a little bit and just beg the referee not to tee them up because they're in this game and have a chance to win it. So she was there playing peacemaker, and I thought that was a pretty funny moment there. But overall, North Central, it feels like it's a team that's kind of ready to take that next step this season and just kind of continue building. They have a lot of young talent in that group and very, very athletic.
Yeah, you talked about the athleticism. The kid that I talked about in the preview show was Macy Loy. Look, there's a really good basketball player under there with really good athleticism. I think she's just trying to put it together and trying to figure out where she kind of fits in with coach's new system and all of that. But she's the kid along with Harrington. So Macy Loy and Harrington, like those two kids, when you turn on North Central, and granted, because of maybe their win-loss record or their status within the city, like I probably only saw them play maybe a half dozen times last year. It's probably high even. But every one of those half dozen times, we'll call it that, it was either Loy or Harrington like making plays. So when I was watching this game, I wanted to see kind of how they fit in, and I was trying to visualize how like Naja Winston would fit in as well. And here's the one thing that I know is going to happen. Okay. Like when Winston comes back, and I'm not saying that they have this now, but Winston had a double-double in the state championship, and then Lawrence North doesn't have that ring ceremony without her. Okay. So let's just establish that. Loy, Harrington, and Winston are going to be an absolute load to score against. And they're going to guard you, and they're going to talk to you, and they're going to push you, and then they're going to pick you up and help you up because they're great kids, and then they're going to talk to you again. Like, I just really like the overall, like, just it's almost like North Central. I was kind of like, hey, don't forget about us. Chip on their shoulder kind of attitude. It came off on the stream. I don't know if I was just making that up. What did it feel like in the building? Like, did it feel like it was the tides turning for North Central?
It's probably a little premature to say that, but you can tell that the building blocks are there, foundational. Like, you can feel the direction that it's going. You can feel the positive momentum. You could certainly feel the energy on the bench. They hit a buzzer beater at the end of the game that tied it up the final a little bit, 62-57. But the way that the girls reacted, you would have thought that it was a winning shot or goes to overtime. And I don't say that with any disrespect. I think that's awesome. That's the kind of energy you want to see. And then speaking of Harrington, as I look through the game thread that I tweet out of highlights, she had a really nifty move where she got from the wing, dribbles down along the baseline, gets around Bentley, goes up and hits like a little turnaround or a little reverse layup there to make it a 10-point game. So you see little flashes there. It's just youth, and down the stretch, they had some opportunities to get a little closer. They just couldn't get that shot to the fall, which happens. And then when they were forcing stops, getting stops on the other end, they'd come down and they'd shoot a rush shot, which is like a good, one step forward, one step back kind of dynamic. But the way that they were pressuring Lawrence North and getting that opponent sped up. And obviously it's another young team that they're facing, as we addressed when we were talking about Lawrence North. But like I said, I think it's a little early to say that the tide is fully turning, but you can feel the building blocks are there, and you can feel the steps being taken in real time to really start to turn that tide and to get to what you were talking about. But I think the chip on the shoulder is probably a very fair assessment, because I was kind of thinking about that, and I was thinking about how this lineup's going to look with Naja Winston on the floor. But North Central does kind of fly under the radar, just in the grand scheme of things in the Marion County area in that tournament. Like, you almost forget because there's so many good teams there at the top with LC, Franklin Central, Pike, and teams like that.
Well, yeah, I definitely think there's and I think they would admit this too. There's definitely teams in heavier weight classes, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay. But it has to start with culture. It has to start with leadership. Like you had mentioned Naja on the bench. One of the things, I think it was a 5-point, like the game, like Lawrence North, and I'm sure this is what Steven's going to talk about too with his kids, but like, they should have put North Central away earlier in that basketball game. Like, yes. I mean, I would walk away, get something to eat, get something to drink. I'd come back and I'd be like, thinking that it's going to be up to 20. And then it just kind of hangs around at like 8 or 9. And then it gets down to 5 late. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kalia Bentley hits a 3 inside 2 minutes to make it an 8-point basketball game. And the interim coach at North Central calls a timeout. My apologies. I actually don't know his name, but calls a timeout. And if you watch, there was a missed assignment by, I think, one of the freshmen on North Central that left Kalia Bentley open, who's the one kid probably in that game that you can't leave open. And when she was walking to the bench, Naja Winston met her at the volleyball line, put her arm around her, and obviously was coaching her, consoling her, talking to her, being a good teammate, being a good friend. Like, those are the kinds of leadership things that you talked about, building blocks. Like, those are huge building blocks that you can lay a very strong foundation for if they do, in fact, get this thing turned around and start winning, enough games where we think they might win multiple games in a sectional week, for example.
It feels like a matter of when and not if with North Central, just with some of the young pieces they have. And with Lawrence North too, I'm really curious to see LN specifically, how they develop. And then too, Stephen brought this up when we were just chatting. I mean, the future is insanely bright for Lawrence North, because it's like these kids are getting the trial by fire now. Imagine what Suggs going to be like in a couple years. Imagine what she's going to be like at this, when we're talking going into sectional. And the same thing with North Central. Just imagine what they're going to look like when they have Naja Winston there to anchor it, a kid who won a state championship last year. and just how invaluable that experience is underneath a head coach who has a lot of good winning experience herself at the college level. Like it's very two programs with a lot of upside, which is really exciting when you take things into consideration. I mean, LN graduates just the one senior, Kalia Bentley, from next year. North Central's got a couple more, but still a lot of pieces coming back, a lot of things to look forward to. So that's Lawrence Central or Lawrence North Central. We're hoping to be joined here by Fakar Hawkins before long. Danny, why don't you pick another game for us to chat about? We wait for Fakara.
I mean, I saw a lot of games, Hank. Listen, man,
Well, you
wherever
really
wherever you want to go, I'm totally fine.
We should at least mention Hamilton Heights Lapel. Lanaya Wills with another near 40-point piece. She comes in. She's now the school's all-time leading scorer, surpassing the all-time record set on the boys' side. For those who keep track of that stuff, I mean, Lanaya's quest for 2,000 points is inevitable. Lapel squeaks out a tight win over Hamilton Heights. I think it was a 7-point game. I'll get your one thought, Danny, after screening that one.
Yeah, my one thought actually goes to the Hamilton Heights side. We talked about the youth of Hamilton Heights a lot, and it's probably over publicized and worn out now by this point in time, but they started in that odd front. We talked about the odd front zone and Riley Suarez at the top, but what that does do is it takes 6'2" and it puts it at the front of the zone. So now you're taking your best rebounder, your best post defender, and inevitably your best interior presence to guard somebody like Lanaya Wills, and it takes her and puts her 20 feet away from the basket. They missed a couple of early drops and early rotations, and I'm not sure how far they want that middle zone defender dropping. But the youth and an experience also can talk about their experience together. Like Aaron moved to an even front in the second half when Lanaya Wills and Lapel really hurt them in the first half. They moved to a 2-3 zone, solidify their front line. Lanaya Wills has to find a different way to score. But Lapel was literally just throwing the ball over the top of the Hamilton Heights zone where Lanaya Wills would jump 100 feet in the air, grab it out, and then make a layup. So I think both basketball teams, I think the storylines are what they are, and I don't think they're going to change, but it is kind of fun to see the adjustments and kind of what we said, because the Hamilton Heights isn't going to be young forever, and Lanaya Wills isn't going to be the only person in the Lapel offense forever. Like it is, they have to progress if they want to get postseason runs put together. But just an interesting thought that I had on Hamilton Heights. That was a closer game than I think Lapel probably wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm. A game that I was at last night while Danny was screening that one and like 5,000 others, little over exaggeration. It was only like 100, whatever. Franklin Central 66, New Palestine 30. Danny, I've never seen a 19-0 run, and I've certainly never seen what became, I think, a 29-2 run at one point by Franklin Central. It was New Pal scored the first 8, and it was a slog, and it was really good defense on their part, forcing a lot of turnovers, capitalizing on those turnovers. Franklin Central looked bad. I think those were Peyton Duvall's exact words as well. Just her assessment was we looked really bad at the beginning. And then just I remember Ashley Baker, I think, got a little frustrated with the foul call, slaps the floor, pops up, keeps going. I think she hits a shot out of that timeout, and it was off to the races. 19 straight points. They allowed a 2-pointer, which is, I'm sure a bit disappointing for them, because then they just continued pouring it on, 29-2. I think it got to 30-4 at one point, the run. Just an incredible show of strength by Franklin Central en route to a 66-30 win. Journey Washington, the freshman, I think I texted you about her. She is phenomenal and a blast to watch. Some of the moves that kid made getting the basket were unbelievable. Peyton Duvall looks big and physical inside. Obviously, she's going to face bigger competition, like more players that can stack up against her, but it's not like New Pal shies away from the physicality inside themselves. Really impressed by Peyton, because I remember that was like the thing in the sectional was against Center Grove, was like that felt like the game where Peyton kind of took that step forward and embraced that opportunity to be physical and embrace her size inside. And it certainly seems like that's kind of carried through. Anaya Dowdy was a big factor defensively. That's something that Vince Sorbonne, their coach, kind of honed in on, is just what Anaya is able to do defensively and her importance now with Riley Hatari out for the season with the torn ACL. But I mean, good God, you hear we've talked about how deep Franklin Central is, and they are every bit as deep as what you were being told. And when they are on, I mean, my God, they're borderline unstoppable because they're prolific offensively.
So when I was at the HSE Lawrence Central game, there was a basketball coach that came up to me and asked me if I thought Atari's injury would invalidate their ability to win the state championship. Just simple as that, right? And the person that I was standing with talking to immediately jumps in and was like, absolutely, they've got no chance, right? But the coach that was first asking the question, the root to the reason why they said it was because they think so highly of Journey Washington. They immediately launch into like, yeah, but Journey Washington provides them just maybe a little bit more size and strength and so on and so forth. By the way, I do agree with both sides. I agree that Atari probably does change their trajectory as to where they are, but the thought that they're devoid of talent just isn't true. But the reason why I tell everybody that story, Hank, is because you text me about it. I saw Journey Washington play at Center Grove in the opener. And I mean, look, I knew she was good. I mean, I'd seen her and known about her for a few years. Okay. She didn't do anything that was super outstanding. You could tell, like, she moved well. She got a basket, got a couple of rebounds. But then to get a text from you, who's actually covering the game, to see that she's kind of starting to have these little breakout moments, maybe the coach that said, hey, maybe they're just going to be a little bit different without Atari with Journey Washington. Maybe that will age very well. Who knows?
She was making some really slick moves to the basket. And again, it's important to contextualize these things. They're playing New Palestine, which is a really good team. I think I like New Pal and I like what they have over there, but that isn't Lawrence Central. That isn't Pike. That isn't some of the teams that they're going to face in county here in a couple weeks. It's not who they're going to have. That's not Center Grove. It's not Grayson Gilliard on the other side, which you're going to have to face in the sectional. But still, the talent is there. The pieces are there for that kid. And it's a lot of fun. And I feel bad for Vince because I remember my first year here, I think the second or third game that I covered was when Rhea Kinser went down with, I think it was a foot injury against Lawrence Central. And when that happened, the season went kaput. And it was just because they were so reliant on her, a young Lily Graves, and then a third piece. They just had three pieces. They were not deep. They had nothing. The opposite is true this year. I mean, it's plug and play, plug and go. They're rolling really deep. Last night you had four girls scoring double figures. Ashley Baker led the way with 15. Then you had Duvall with 13, Carly Holmes 12, Anaya Dowdy 10. Then you had Briley Layton chip in 7. The freshman Washington had 6. So, I mean, just like that scoring depth on its own. And then they can rebound. They ran some double post last night, too, with Aubrey Irwin going in with Duvall, which is a unique look and another luxury they have. So, Vince has so many different pieces that he can play around with and experiment with and, just like see what lineups work and what doesn't. That they're going to be a fascinating team to watch and see how they evolve over the next couple weeks.
Was Baker's 15 5 threes?
3 threes.
Okay.
3 threes and a couple free throws.
Watching her play reminds me so much of the way Warsaw uses Zartman. Let me see if I can add some further definition to that. Like on free throws against Center Grove, they're running free throw breaks where they would get the ball out of the net as quickly as they could. They'd throw the outlet pass. They'd look to pitch it. Who Baker is running up the sideline. A lot of people do it. And Baker would get threes just off of, not being able to get matched up in transition or jogging back or being worried about securing the defensive rebound or trying to crash the offensive glass on a free throw, whatever it is. There's a lot of different reasons why that's open. But every Warsaw game that you watch, Zartman gets one of those threes. And it's seemingly every one of Franklin Central's games, Baker gets one of those threes too. And yes, they're running some stuff for him like double staggers and floppies and all those things that we do for great catch and release shooters. But I do kind of get the sense that that everybody there, whether it's Washington, who we mentioned, whether it's Duvall, who we mentioned, whether it's Baker, who we mentioned, Doty or whoever, like whatever their role is on that basketball team, it's going to have to be they're going to need a little bit more. Like Baker, and the reason why I asked that about Baker scoring 15 and it being all threes. Baker can't be a three-point shooter, just a three-point shooter anymore. Like she has to do other things to score the basketball. and just like Duvall has to, and just like Washington has to, so on and so forth. So where I'm going with this is Franklin Central having this injury and having this at the beginning of the season does give them an opportunity to develop these players and expand their roles in different ways. That if there's talent there, then let's wait and see what Vince kind of drums up here on the other side of the new year.
Franklin Central's schedule ramps up a little bit. They have Hamilton Southeastern on the road, then Westfield and Brownsburg ahead of County. So there really is not much rest for them. They get right into it. A couple other notable stats before we talk about the New Pal side of things. 14 rebounds for Duvall, so she got the double-double. 5 assists in addition to the 15 points for Ashley Baker. 7 steals for Anaya Dowdy. 7 rebounds for Washington. So pretty well-balanced contributions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 girls. It looks like 7 or 8 girls all dished out assists. On the other side of things, New Palestine, I was curious to see. Like, that was the first big test of the year for them. I wasn't necessarily expecting them to pull the upset, but I was curious to see how they fared. And for the first 5 minutes or so, they looked really good. Defensively, I think Franklin Central maybe had a little bit of a hand in that. They're making a lot of bad decisions with the ball, a lot of turnovers. But nevertheless, New Pal was in their grill, and they were forcing. I think they forced a couple of those turnovers too on their own, just their defensive pressure. But the thing in talking with Craig Moore after the game is he felt like a couple games into the year that the girls finally clicked, that it finally clicked for them. They started to buy into how they want to play this year, and that is with some tempo, with some pace. They kind of get going a little bit faster this year offensively, and it'll be interesting how that develops. They should be able to build some momentum going into that December 6th game against Delta. New Pal should be. That'll be a really good one. That's at home for New Pal. So if you're looking to see Delta and another good, maybe more reasonable measuring stick game for New Pal, certainly schedule and recommend December 6th against them. Sadie Hughbanks, just wanted to shout her out. That kid plays with a particular edge and chip on her shoulder that I really enjoy. She's a feisty one. I know Sadie decently well and have covered her a bit just on the softball side of things, but on the basketball court, doesn't shy away from contact, was trying to get an elbow call last night, had her arms tangled up with whoever was in the post for Franklin Central. Couldn't get the call, but did get a foul called on her a couple times in the process of trying to get that, and she wasn't pleased, but that kid's physical. She's fun to watch.
How did Brooklyn Krim look for New Pal? That was the kid when we had mentioned and talked just briefly about New Pal earlier in season 3. She was the one that maybe hit the game-winning and one against Burbuff that got the win. Was she able to stack some good plays and impress you over at New Pal?
A little bit, not too much. I'll be honest, it was tough to see much positives individually in the way for New Pal. How quickly that thing devolved, because it wasn't just that, it wasn't as much that New Pal was missing shots. They shot 26%, 11 for 43, but in the midst of that run, it was a lot of Franklin Central turning them over at just an excessive rate, forcing bad passes, not really letting them get comfortable. New Pal finished with 15 turnovers, which feels low because Franklin Central had 18 steals. So something's wrong in the Max Preps box score. But no, I think individually, nobody really necessarily popped. That's why I'm withholding judgment on New Pal. Like in my Fab 15 area rankings, I kind of put them in that receiving votes because I wasn't sure what to make of them. And after watching them last night against Franklin, I doesn't feel fair to draw any more conclusions because I think it's a buzzsaw they ran into. I will be interested to see them against Delta here in a couple weeks, and you go from there to Shelbyville right after that. Another conference opponent, a team that brings back everybody from last year, a team that was competitive within that sectional that also is headlined by Roncalli, of course. So I'm kind of withholding judgment on the Dragons until December when we'll have a chance to see them against more equitable competition, and I think that's fair. But I'm interested to see where they go. Let's see, Danny, where should we go from here? I'm asking myself, not you. It's okay. You watched East Central play last night. We haven't talked about East Central yet this year. I've heard some good things, though, about them from over the summer. Please tell me that you watched the game from this season, though, and not like last year or back in the glory days from 3 or 4 years ago.
That's a story that has a funny context to it. I'll tell it a different time. So I screened East Central last year. I've gotten to know
Kevin,
their coach Kevin Moore, throughout the years, and they had an extraordinary talent by the name of Josie Trable, who would She was, I think I saw her in like Columbus have like 40, I think in like maybe a regional morning game have like 40 and then, back it up. And I think they tried to play Bedford North Lawrence, I think that night. But last year they ended up winning the sectional, okay, on the strength of Natalie Stenger's performance. So here's this kid who a lot of people she's kind of tossed around as a name that's like, oh, this is one of the 20 best players in the class or one of the 5 best point guards in the class. And I've gotten to be pretty familiar with her game, but I always wanted to contextualize it with just a larger sample size of watching her play. That was one reason why I screened it. The other reason why I screened it is because I'm going to see them play Hammond Central at the Pike event this Saturday. I'm actually not going to start at Sneakers. I'm actually going to start at Pike.
That's gonna be
I'm going to catch a couple of games there, and I'm going to catch East Central, Hammond Central. Hammond Central also won sectionals last year, and they did so with very similar styles. And what I mean by that is they have really good pieces. Like they have Natalie Stenger, and they have like an incoming freshman by the name of Lily Maple, who projects to be one of the better kids in that class. And then you have India Hutchinson and Valencia Miller over here with Hammond Central. So you're going to have, there's 4 projected college basketball players, all due respect to the other kids that are going to play college out of those 4 in that morning game. So I wanted to see it. Okay. And I was texting Kevin a little bit about like some of the metrics and some of the things to look at. Like, dude, Stenger looks like a soccer player playing basketball. Like you cannot, it's almost like and we're going to have Addison Norris on here, right? Like, I think we're going to have Addison Norris on in about 15 minutes. It's almost like watching Addison Norris play. Like, it's just like this kid could go out and get 3 goals and then get 12 points and get 4 steals and then have a corner kick assist. Like, it's just the way they move, and athletically, they are very difficult to keep in front of. Now, Kevin charts different things with East Central. One of the things he charts is misses at the rim. And Natalie Stenger right now leads East Central in misses at the rim. So on one hand, you're like, hey, Natalie, finish. And on the other hand, at least she's getting to the front of the rim. So the big what to watch for East Central is you have the defending state champ who's going to be playing Hammond Central, who's another defending state champ. I'm sorry. Sectional champ, who's going to be playing another defending sectional champ at Pike on Saturday.
That's going to be phenomenal. That's going to be great entertainment. I'm really excited to see that one and hear that one unfolds, because like you said, I mean, just so much young talent on display there between Hutchinson and the kid there from East Central. So that'll be a good one. And East Central is one of those teams where it's like they're so, I guess, basically isolated down there by the Cincinnati area that it's kind of easy to lose track of them. But they do. Kevin has some good pieces that he's building up over there. And I remember hearing Keith Hollins, actually, when I saw him over this summer at the Charlie Hughes event at HSE, he mentioned them as one of the teams that was really impressing him in the early going of the summer. So it's going to be fun, as I've said, with many other teams, to see where they go.
Didn't he have to scout somebody? Not, I picked him last year, I think in the regional round. And then they ended up losing by 25. And I don't think we ever talked about it again.
Yeah, that was Danny's doing. He doesn't like us to talk about his losses.
No, I mean, it's fine. I'm bringing it up. I own it. I'll take the L. I think when I was watching it, I think there was probably a level of not being as educated as I would like to have been. Not to say that I didn't think that Kevin and East Central could win that basketball game, because when I watched them in sectionals, like Stenger, she literally just gets wherever she wants. Like there's a sequence at the end of the third quarter where I think she makes a layup, gets a steal, makes a layup, and then has a step back volleyball, like scores 7 points in the final, like 65 seconds of that game. Like she can score in bunches. She's dynamic. Listen, Natalie Stenger, everybody, that kid is really good.
Awesome. Danny, let's talk about Norwell Homestead. We got 5 minutes before we told Vanessa and Addison we'd have them on. So let's talk and brag about them here for 5 minutes, and then we'll bring them on. Big win for Norwell last night over Homestead. Norwell takes down the number 1 team in the state, beat Homestead for the first time since 22-13. Addison Norris leads the way with 24 points. 20 points 7 3-pointers, by the way, on Addison Norris. 20 points on 7 of 8 free throws for Vanessa Rosswurm. Macy Salfrank, 12 points, 7 steals. She had so many freaking steals, according to Sam Frick, who tweeted stats at me. They shot 41% from the field, 67% at the line. For Homestead, Gabby Helsum held to 18 points. She had 6 3-pointers. Maya Epps held to 10 points. Angan Brooks 6, and Mullering 5. I butchered my way through those stats, so I'm just going to throw it to you before I make more of an ass of myself.
I am guessing that this game, particularly in the area and to those two schools, meant more than Homestead and Pike. The reason why I say that is because there's local familiarity. A lot of these kids are AAU teammates. They're going to like college together. I like Rosswurm, Mullering, and Ankenbrook are all going to Iowa. Like there's so much familiarity. There's inherited tradition and rivalry associated with Homestead and Norwell, but most of all, and this I think is the most important point of this, is on the strength of executing the success clause, Norwell or Homestead is done by sectional Saturday. They both cannot be on regional. They both will not be in Marion. One of them is going to be done. And it's either going to be who many think after Saturday's win at Pike, and we'll see how they feel about it now, many teams, their number one team in the state, or it's going to be Norwell, who's been to state for the past 2 seasons. And so the setup of this one, I don't know if it was a trap for Homestead. It trapped me. I forgot about it. Like I totally forgot about it.
I lost track of it. I talked to Vic Jacobson at state volleyball about this game and the potential of going up there and making the trip for it. And then I just forgot about it.
Yeah, for sure. But not everybody thought about it, because after it happened, the text started flooding in. Like, oh my God, Norwell will be Homestead. Oh my God, Norwell will be Homestead. And I'm like, I'm watching, and they're like, it's over. No, I was watching it on replay because I didn't know that it happened. But covering all Norwell games, like I said the sentence that like it seems like Warsaw games all start to look the same. Norwell games all look the same too. Okay. There was a possession in that game, and I'm reading a note here where it was Homestead 21, Norwell 19. And Norwell ran dribble drive for 80 seconds, where, I mean, like Rosswurm, Addison, and Salfrank probably got 3 attacks and kicks themselves. It was drive, kick, drive, kick, drive, kick, drive, kick for 80 seconds, and it ends with a Salfrank and 1. Their patience and their comfort level of playing in traffic in that dribble drive, you marvel at. I said this, and you can go back and play all of my Norwell clips over the last 2 seasons. They're all the same. We always want to talk about the 1-3-1, and I always bring it to the dribble drive. The dribble drive at Norwell, I promise you, is more impressive to my eyes than the 1-3-1. Maybe it's because for a portion of my coaching career, I ran dribble drive, and I ran it at an elementary level compared to what these kids are running it at. It's unbelievable for them to have a dribble drive possession that has 80 seconds. There's just no way that they can do that. So that was a big standout for me. That wasn't a newsflash to Rod Parker and Homestead. They knew they were going to get attacked off the bounce, and they still did. And they guarded it, quite honestly, really, really well. But Norwell's ability to get good looks, this is a dumb sentence, 80 seconds into the shot clock is pretty impressive.
Into the shot clock is a sentence. Oh my gosh. Vanessa and Addison, as soon as they throw on their cameras here, we'll bring them on the show. Just really impressive. I mean, the rematch is going to be insane. Did you see the environment out there? I saw some clips floating around there. I mean, the atmosphere looked absurd. The way that I found out about it, actually, because again, I also forgot about the game. I was too busy enthralled in 19-0, 36-2, or whatever it was. was somebody commented on the post of our preseason rankings, my statewide preseason rankings on Instagram. Somebody threw on their down goes number one. I was like, the hell, did Lawrence Central play tonight? Like, what happened? I was like, oh wait, no, Homestead. They're talking about the statewide ones, and that reminded me of Norwell versus Homestead. Man, what a game! This has just been an absurd start to the season.
No, it was, and we'll ask them about this too. Another note that I had, we'll ask the kids this if they chart deflections. Deflections was the story of the game. Like they turned Homestead over a ton, but you coaches chart deflections. They chart them in practice. They chart them in games. Rick Pitino, when he was at Kentucky, which was forever ago, but when he was at Kentucky, he was the first one to really be public about like counting deflections. And 30 was always the number that you wanted to get in a basketball game. So anytime you touch a basketball, whether you turn them over or not, anytime you touch a basketball, it counts as a deflection. And they want 30. Saul Frank probably had 15 on her own. I'm not exaggerating on that. Every single time. And they position, it's like a little nuance that Eric had too. Like the way that Saul Frank is positioned, like on the wing, they take away direct line pass, in this case to Helsum and Ankenbrook, which and if you notice, if you really watch the game, Helsum does all of her damage in middle third. Like she would have to relocate because Saul Frank was just there. But there were two deflections. Like once when it was 28-22, Saul Frank gets a deflection and it possibly affected Ankenbrook's ability to hit a three. She had just drawn a charge 2 possessions prior. She had hit a three. Saul Frank gets a deflection, and that deflection is what ignited a 12-0 Norwell run, which stretched it out. If she doesn't deflect that ball and Ankenbrook hits that three, they now go up 9. Am I saying that the entire game turned on a Saul Frank deflection? Yes. No, I'm not. But that little mini run did. And she also had a deflection when Helsum was standing wide open in the corner waiting for a three. That's one of the 2 or 3 best shooters of the basketball anywhere in the state, any class, and she deflected it again. But I'm just wondering if they charted deflections, and I'm wondering how many they had, because I would bet my salary it was over 30.
Why don't we just ask him right now? Right now we are joined by Vanessa Rosswurm, Addison Norris from Norwell High School. Norwell coming off again that big win last night over top-ranked Homestead. Girls, how you doing? It's great to see you.
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Good to see you. Good to see you. Addison, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, Danny, I will let you frame that question to the girls.
So I'm not sure what you heard sitting backstage waiting, but I was talking about how you turned Homestead over a bunch. I don't have the exact numbers. I'm not looking at the box score, but the deflections and the disruption that you had being in passing lanes all night seems to me to be the difference in the game. Very timely deflections. There was one at 28-22 that ignited a 12-0 run. The deflection on when Saul Frank had this one again, when Helsum was open in the corner. Vanessa, you made a living at deflecting the basketball at the top. Addison, you seem to be everywhere. Talk to me about deflections. Do you guys chart them? Do you talk about them? What's the value in them? Is it player positioning? How do you get them? Just talk. Vanessa, why don't you talk first?
Yeah. I feel like, to be honest, we don't really chart our deflections, but like a lot of our principles of our defense is to stay very wide. And that was our main focus of the night, is we'd rather be playing wide in like the passing lanes and on my position, like on top, like being above the ball to really avoid those direct skip passes, because that's what happened to us when we played Homestead last year, because we just struggled of staying wide in our defense. And whenever we did that, Gabby got wide open threes. And yes, she was still efficient last night or the other night, but I think we were able to just be wider, and especially like you mentioned earlier, with Macy deflecting everything. She's also just gotten so much better over the course of just the beginning of the season. So, yeah.
I would say, like, I feel like Thornton always tells us, like, to execute, like, even on defense, like, even getting a tip off of just a pass, like, we'll go after the ball. Like, getting a tip, and then even if it's, like, Vanessa or me, the back or front, getting the ball and, like, looking down the court. Just like even getting a tip is considered a steal too. So
Yeah. Addison, do you play soccer?
I did for 1 year.
You did for 1 year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tease you before I ask you a question, because at 50 to
Okay.
42, there's this real funny like moment in that game where you were inbounding the basketball in front of your student section, and you shuffle an entire 5 feet before throwing the basketball in. Like, I just wanted to remind you that you can take those liberties on the pitch, but on the basketball court, please don't do that at like a sectional and turn it over. But no, listen, you were great last night. Where did that come from for you? Like, I don't like every time we see you, you're having a great game in the state championship. You're whatever, you're leading your basketball team in summer league games. I talked about that on a previous episode. And then you have a game high and pace your basketball team against the number 1 team in your place last night. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But where's this confidence coming from? Like you're a load every night now, Addison.
I would just say like playing together with my team. Like it's just so fun, knowing that he emphasized like the number 1 team in the state is coming on our court tonight, and like that's just crazy because like that's us playing them on our home court, and just like knowing like we can do it, like and anyone can be beat, and like just doing it together. Like I feel like we were so together, and that's what made us win. So.
And Vanessa, I'll take your thoughts on this first before Addison talks about it too. But the lead in for this and the setup of the game, I kind of set up is very different than any other Homestead Norwell game in the last 2 years, because the success clause puts you in their sectional. Is that something that was a storyline preparing for this game, that like you wanted to send a message that this is going to be a team that's going to stand in your way of a third straight trip downtown? Did that play into it at all, or was just a game for you guys?
I feel like for all of us, it's like always in the back of our heads, like, oh, we will see them again. It's not like last year, like you said, like, oh, we're in 3A, so we're only going to see them once. But honestly, for the most part, we've been trying to just be focused on each individual game and just giving our 100% effort. But that was definitely in the back of our head. And also just because, like, all of us seniors, we all know, like, obviously Homestead's a very senior dominant team as well. And we've grew up like playing against those girls ever since like 3rd or 4th grade. So just like knowing them and just having that rivalry over the years also really motivated us. Like this is our last year. And I guess we did want to make a statement, but it's not because we just wanted to beat them. Like not just because we wanted the statement win before sectionals, if that makes sense.
I'm
Addison
curious. Go ahead.
Hank.
Oh, sorry, Danny.
Your thoughts on that, Addison?
I would say the same thing. I would say, like, we know we're going to play them again. And Thornton even told us, like, we're going to see them again. It's not just, like, a one and, like, oh, we're not going to see them again. But knowing that giving our all the first time, like, also giving our all the second time we see them, too, is just as important. So, but we really wanted the win.
Ness, back to you before Hank hops in. I'm dying to hear your perspective on the IWU stuff. I mean, like, you got Whitney and Carly out there, yourself. Like, what was that like playing against your future college teammates?
Yeah, just like honestly, it just felt like another game. I was just kind of used to it since I played against them, and they were my AAU teammates for many years. And Whitney's mom was actually my coach and Addison's coach. In the past too. So we've always just, regardless if we were playing in college or not, we're always familiar with one another. So honestly, it didn't really affect me. I mean, obviously it's different because we'll be seeing each other next year, but it was a cool experience. I mean, looking back, not many people get to say, oh, I played my college teammates in high school. Like, it's just like a unique experience. And yeah, but to me, it was just another game.
I'm just going to give, before we throw it back to Hank, I just want to hear you guys. Norwell has been the subject of obviously the state championship run, but we talk about Norwell a lot. I mean, and you can almost argue that it's kind of outside of the coverage area, so on and so forth. But let's get deeper. Like, we know Saul Frank, Ness, we obviously know you, and Addison, you made a name for yourself. Addison, tell us about one kid that we don't talk about that we should talk about that we need to watch. Vanessa, after Addison goes, same thing for you, and then Hank will take it over from there.
Well, yeah, Macy, Vanessa, I would say Jada. Like, honestly, she is not a starter right now. Thornton kind of switched up the starting lineup from after the first 3 games, I think it was. But just her coming off the bench and bringing energy, like she's quick, like she's super quick. Even though she doesn't score a lot, she'll get tips on defense, rebounds, and like that's a huge part. Like she'll get assists too, and like we wouldn't make the amount of shots Macy and Vanessa get a game off of her steals and rebounds. So yeah, Jada Dale is what I would say.
Yeah, I would say Jada Dale, but also Haley Williamson. She's a junior, and honestly, like she comes off the bench as well. But just her defensive presence is honestly really huge for us. I mean, during the Homestead game, you see her getting multiple blocks, and also like during the course of last year's games and beginning this year, like she's the kid that'll take a charge. She's the kid who will always go after the 50-50 balls, and regardless, and she's very like versatile. Like we can put her in like any position, and she'll know how to run a play. Like just those little things, and she's willing to adjust on the fly, and she's willing to just adjust on like any position on the 1-3-1 depending on who she's subbing in for. So I feel like she's just put in so much work over the years, and this year she just keeps just going with the flow. And along with Haley, I'd also say Ashley Waldman. She has worked really hard. I mean, obviously, Addison already mentioned how Jada was starting for a couple of games, and now Ashley's starting. But I feel like really turnaround for her this year was during the Warsaw game when not all of us – it was just a hard game for us just because it was the beginning of the season. But I'd say like her presence and her being able to step up and hit some big shots during that game, even though we ended up still losing. And not just like with her 3-point shooting, but also being wide on the wing and getting those deflections.
Who's the best team you've played this year?
Warsaw, I would say. I would say Warsaw.
Yeah, I would say Warsaw and Homestead, honestly.
Yeah. All right. I'm not setting you. I'm not setting you up. I'm not setting you up. I swear to God. I just wanted to know what you'd say. Like it is the one thing I know about Norwell. Okay, you guys, you're gonna play everybody. Like you guys don't duck anybody. There's no smoke. You'll play anybody anywhere. Doesn't matter. And many times you'll beat them. You have the state championship last year to prove it. But Homestead beating Pike and Warsaw with the 4 teams that they have Snyder, Northrop, Norwell, and somebody else that's really good. Their 4 wins are Valpo. Their 4 wins are as good as 4 wins. I just wanted to say, it's comparative scores, like because you beat Warsaw and Warsaw beats. I just wanted to hear what you guys had said. But obviously Warsaw did some things, and they were a lot more effective in attacking your 1-3-1 than maybe Homestead was last night. Addison, can you attribute that to anything?
Like saying
like it just seemed like Warsaw was more effective against your 1-3-1. I mean, they gave you more problems. They beat you, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They gave you more problems guarding them than it was harder to guard Warsaw than it was Homestead.
Yeah.
Am I accurate there?
Yeah, I would say Warsaw, they drove it a lot more than Homestead did. I feel like Homestead, like they were just looking for either Gabby or Whitney in the corners. Like even driving from on top, and Homestead shallow cut, but we knew to pick that off. And so they didn't even attempt to drive it like from the top. Maybe on the baseline, they did drive baseline sometimes, but Warsaw, they drove it, I would say, from anywhere they could. And they got more into the lane, and I feel like that was more effective for them. So
that's fascinating.
Danny, do you want to ask?
Go ahead. No, I'm fascinated because if you watch the game, Norwell last night did a tremendous job in keeping Maya Epps out of the paint and limiting her opportunities. I also talked about how, and Ness corroborated it, about how they are naturally wide on the wings. So they are almost giving middle drive almost at the beginning because they don't want direct line pass to Helsum and they don't want direct line pass to Ankenbrook. If you notice the first 3 threes that Helsum hits all in the first half, she had relocated into middle third where Epps would drive. They would push her out and ice her. and then they were slow on the rotation. That's not what Warsaw does. Warsaw gets Bricker, and if they're going to give the middle lane, she's going to go downhill as fast as she can to the front of the rim, and she's going to get there. So I think that's an interesting thing to kind of watch moving forward as different teams try to attack this Norwell zone, how different teams like to do it. Addison, it was really fascinating to hear you talk about the shallow cuts and things like that. I noticed that too, but I do think that the way that Warsaw attacked it and the way that Homestead attacked it was night and day.
Mm-hmm.
So playing off what Danny said, so you guys obviously, I'm sure you pick up on these things during the game. How much tweaking does Thornton do over the course of a game to the zone, and what adjustments do you guys make to kind of counter some of that stuff?
I would say, like, honestly, a lot of it is just, I mean, we do adjust like a lot throughout the game, but honestly, he just kind of trusts us to just like use our gut instincts, and just kind of like, he just believes like our logic is like during the game is sometimes just better than sometimes what he tells us to do. And he trusts us like to just make the best decision of where we need to be defensively, since we've been in the system for so long. So I feel like the amount of adjustments just varies between like each game. But overall, I feel like he trusts us to make the adjustments that we need to make.
Is that new? His trust, like, is that something that's kind of come along as you guys have gotten older, or was it even as underclassmen in there? He's like, all right, kids, figure it out. I trust you. You got this.
Honestly, I feel like he's done that more recently towards the end of last season and then this year, just probably because we have a lot of experience and we all have played. And I feel like since we play our 13 so aggressively, I think he just knows that if we just play aggressive and we just play our game, and I think sometimes it's easier for us just to figure out ourselves than him to say something. And he knows that, and he's told us that. But yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. Addison, for you, I mean, just the atmosphere last night. I mean, it looked incredible. One of the Facebook groups with high school basketball stuff, they were bragging about the atmosphere up there. I mean, what was it like as a player getting to experience that?
I always think like having home games, like we have a lot of people that like to come and watch. Like not even that it was Homestead that they came in, it was like our community. Like they travel well, but home games, like it's crazy. Like they'll always show up, the student section, they'll always show up, and I think it's just so fun. Like honestly, it's so fun seeing like how many people actually enjoy coming in to watch like high school basketball. And even Thornton told us one time, he's like you guys will not like even think about like this might be like the biggest stage you'll ever play on, like high school basketball, which is like crazy to think about because it's like you're right, like the gym is packed. So
Yeah, I mean, and even to his point, like even at the next level, you might be playing at a higher level, but the gyms and the atmosphere and that it's not going to be the same as necessarily as the passion that you get at Norwell high school games. It's just pretty wild to think about.
mm-hmm.
Hall of Fame Classic, is that something that you guys as seniors have thought ahead to, been looking forward to at all, or is that still far enough on the radar that you haven't really had a chance to process what awaits in December?
I think that all of us are really looking forward to it. I mean, in general, we just love like tournaments where we can just have a lot of team bonding and spend that in a hotel, just like the little things like that, since we are all so close to each other. But yeah, I just feel like the Hall of Fame Classic is obviously an honor to be invited to that and to compete in that. But also, like we've talked, like as a team, we've talked, like we're not just there just to be there and have fun. Like we're there to win. And we truly believe that we can win the entire thing. Like Vernon was saying literally, I think today or the day before, or like our last practice, he was like, we're not just going there just to be there, but we're winning it. Like if we're in a tournament, we're going to win it. And this is like the third time in Norwell girls like basketball and in like our history, we've been invited to this tournament. It's just a great honor, and to have a support system we have to be able to participate in it. So
you guys that, and then you have the annual pilgrimage over to Noblesville. I feel like 3 years now that you've been at Noblesville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that another one that you guys kind of look forward to? Just that opportunity to see a Valpo, to see a Snyder, Noblesville. Like it seems like the 4 teams are always the same, but it's always good competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like those 3 teams, Valpo, Snyder, and Noblesville, regardless if it's their like rebuilding year or if they're a really good year, it's always really good competition in general. And it's always good for us to be tested. And obviously that's getting closer to the state tournament, which further prepares us for February.
That's the 131 coaches clinic, by the way. Like that's like it's when Candy was there, it was they all just run 1-3-1 at each other. It's crazy.
Yeah. Do teams try to 1-3-1 you guys very often? Like, have there been games where it's like, oh, we're looking in a mirror at ourselves?
I feel like no. Like it's always either man or a 2-3, or maybe they'll run like a 1-3-1 like closer together though. But it's not like our 1-3-1 where we're just like out wide.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I would say Warsaw, they at least recently, a little bit this year and a little bit last year, they try to run a 1-3-1 and we played against it, but they don't run the exact way we do. I mean, obviously nobody will run it the exact same we do because every team is different, but they tried to, and it's pretty similar to us. But I would say probably Noblesville is probably the team that was the most similar to us, just because honestly, we got the 1-3-1 from Noblesville, and that's how Thornton kind of established his defense in general. And just the way that they like guarded things, like you can just tell, like it's just the same principles. So I'd say Noblesville and Warsaw are the top two teams who run it similar to us. And
those are the two teams, Ness, and I love that you know the history of that, because it's really, I mean, you know me well enough to know that I enjoy kind of the history and the etymology of all of these defenses. That was Eric kind of put his own nuance on the 1-3-1, but the one thing that he did take from Donna was that you guys started playing it in live ball change of possession upon Donna's recommendation. So two of the teams that run the 1-3-1 that is different than most teams that run 1-3-1 is they will also run it in live ball change of possession.
Yeah.
Something to watch there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Vanessa and Addison, thank you guys so much for hopping on with us. We appreciate it. Congratulations again on the win. We'll be seeing you guys here in a couple weeks with Hall of Fame and Noblesville coming up.
Great win, girls.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
Addison, Norris, Vanessa, Rosswurm with us from Norwell following their big win over Homestead. Danny, we're going over the 1 hour mark at this point, so we'll quickly breeze through some things. Speaking of Noblesville, they got beaten around a little bit tonight by Brownsburg, 67-48. El McCullough, 20 points. Ava Emberton, 18. Lanaya Joaquin, 13 for Brownsburg. Other side, CC Quigley, 20. Allie Hutchinson, 11 for Noblesville. Brownsburg's going to be a fun team to follow. Ben Davis took down Plainfield last night. That was a result which was admittedly surprising, an impressive win for Ben Davis, which played Brownsburg tough earlier in the week or last week. So they're going to be one of those teams. It's going to be kind of a difficult out, as one should expect from a stand bench coach team. 46-44 against Brownsburg, and they come back and get a 62-50 win over Plainfield. Fairly decisive win there. They have Warren Central coming up. That's going to be a very interesting game. I feel like there's another big one maybe that I'm leaving out. Carmel beat Zionsville. That was notable. Westfield pulled away from Mount Vernon. Anything else that you want to mention or touch on before we jump a little bit and talk some sneakers?
No, that Carmel game was interesting because Bella Ramsey has now back-to-back 20-point games. When I talked about Carmel last time, I talked about how they just seem to win different ways. Jacoby Warren's like 4 threes will get overshadowed by Bella Ramsey's back-to-back 20-pointers, but Jacoby Warren is now a kid who's just starting to inject herself into that Carmel turnaround, which is kind of fun too. And Jess is changing defenses. They played like box and one. They flattened out a zone. They extended in 1-3-1 themselves. So that was a nice win. Bloomington South has some tougher opponents coming up. I did get my first look at them. The addition of DeVries was fun, but we will go deeper on them at another time when they have a different game. You had mentioned Mount Vernon. Yeah, that's good. That's good for me.
As I look at this, Casey Warfel, the Pendleton Heights grad, 40 points to lead Taylor to a comeback win over Grace College. So shout out Casey Warfel. That's awesome. Danny,
let's a nice little segue too, because there's two Warfels that we're going to see at Sneakers on Saturday.
There are, Danny. Wow, that is beautiful, man. We are at mid-season form, and it's only November, buddy. He said, stumbling through, realizing that he had the schedule wrong for this weekend. Here's the schedule for Sneakers for Santa. Clarksville Christian, Tennessee, taking on Silver Creek. Brownsburg, Pendleton Heights, as Danny referenced. Valpo, Eastern Hancock, Warsaw, Jennings County, Homestead, Plainfield. Danny, my attention is mostly, I'll admit, on those last 3 games. I think Brownsburg-Pendleton Heights is going to be a really good game. I'm going to call the guard against Olivia Jones and Ada Hupfer for Pendleton Heights. But it's late, and also I want to go to bed. So let's focus on those last 3 for now. Lily Barnes versus Kenzie Cook, and 4 o'clock is going to be absolutely absurd.
Future college teammates. One of the best kids in the 26 class, one of the best kids in the 27 class, and both those kids will love to put on a show for everybody. They are both showmen, not in a bad way. I mean, they just love to, when the lights are on and the lights are bright, and there's somebody that's in this case going to be a college teammate on the other side. They understand that and know that. But these games will always come down to what those secondary matchups and what happens on those secondary matchups, right? We already know Kenzie Cook and Lily Barnes can play on these big stages and in these big games. But let's find out what Bella Satella is made of. She's averaging 16.7 points per basketball game. She's been the secondary scorer for Eastern Hancock. She's the kid very much like Bella Ramsey, who always seems to be loose on the open floor. She's a standout in track. I promise you, she's probably the fastest kid baseline to baseline, maybe in this entire event. And then we have, kids like, Cadence Clark on the other side. Who is going to be kind of that secondary scorer for each of these basketball teams if it is in fact Lily Barnes and Kenzie Cook kind of canceling each other out? Then can Satella, can she carry them? We have seen, kids like Cadence Clark and other kids at Valpo. We've like Delilah Kincaid, like we've seen those kids do it. I don't know that we've seen Satella do it yet. And that's not a shot at Satella. She just maybe hasn't had the opportunity to do it yet. But this is going to be really good training, because if the Triton Central game the other night is any indication, Kenzie Cook is going to have a face guard, and she's going to have a defender in her face for the rest of the year. When she's getting on the bus, somebody's still going to be face guarding her. And so they are going to have somebody like Satella step up. So that the big what to watch, of course, the marquee is going to say Lily Barnes versus Kenzie Cook. But I am super interested in what Satella can do in that game. So and Judd is the other one too. Like
Kirsten Judd.
Yeah, Kirsten Judd.
A lot of sneaky good talent there in that or not sneaky good, just a lot of good talent. Like you said, it's going to come down to the depth. So what would be great is that Lily Barnes goes for 20, 30 points. Kenzie Cook does the same, and then you just see who can match or who can build on their teammates' 30 points. It kind of feels like the type of game it is. The next one there, Warsaw versus Jennings County. Have Warsaw and all their firepower, as you mentioned earlier, show against Molly Ernstis at Jennings County. And then they have the sophomore, too, who's coming up, right, Danny?
The sophomore
at Jennings
coming
County.
Up at Jennings County.
I'm going to pull up the stats because I'm pulling this on memory. But let's start with that one. It's going to be interesting. This will be the first time both of us have seen Jennings County this season. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Molly spent the offseason just trying to sharpen that three-point shot. I'm really excited to see how that part of her game has developed. And then I'm curious to see how the depth around her is coming along, because, it's obviously her team. They're going to go as far as she's able to take them. But in a matchup like this against the Warsaw, which has all the firepower in the world, you're going to need the secondary scoring. So not dissimilar from the first game where it's 2 1-on-1 stars. Now it's like 1 star against a cavalcade of stars. So who's going to step up to help out the one?
Yeah, so Warsaw has and I think this is a tip of the cap to Brooke Winchester, have just in people's minds maybe not been on the same plane as a Lawrence Central or a Pike or a Homestead. But again, the best 4-game resume right now belongs to Warsaw. Mm-hmm. Very similarly to the 4 o'clock block, the 6 o'clock block has a headline. And that is, I think it has 2 of the 3 best shooters in the state playing each other from the 3-point line. Brooke Zartman for Warsaw, Molly Ernstis from Jennings County. Those 2 kids, and I would put Gabby Helsum in there as the 3rd, and then the revolving door as to who the 4th face on Mount Rushmore would be from a 3-point shooting perspective. But we're going to see 3 of Mount Rushmore at 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. 2 of them play against each other. So again, if that cancels out, okay. And by the way, Molly, this is all due respect to Zartman. Molly, there's a lot of people that think Molly, it might be the best 3-point shooter in the country. And that sounds so crazy to say, but like what she has done, like on a national scale, and what Zartman and Helsum have done on a national scale, that's what separates these kids. So now, as a 26 in her final year, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Molly's going to try to get out. She's going to try to get up 11 or 12 attempts. Like she just is. She just needs no time to do it. But this is going to be everybody's opportunity locally to see why Warsaw is so good this year. And I do think that it is the progression and the trajectory that Jocelyn Bricker is on, and how they use Zartman and some of the things that they've changed on the offensive side. But at the risk of redundancy, I will say it again: the production that Reagan Huss has provided Warsaw is absolutely paramount to their success this season. And it's going to be everybody's opportunity to try to see who this Reagan Huss kid that I'm talking about. She's the kid that transferred from Northridge and now is a Warsaw and is averaging double figures and seems to be their second or third leading scorer every single basketball game. She's going to be able to get to do it at the sneakers in front of a lot of interesting eyeballs.
Etta Young, by the way, was the name that I could not remember. She's a junior now from Jennings County. I remember you telling me about Etta Young last year.
Yep.
Yeah, the phenomenal talent. If you want to vamp on Etta here for a second. And she was good for about 11 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists last season. Phenomenally talented player, one of those young rising stars.
Yeah, and Homestead will be there live scouting Warsaw. Warsaw will be there live scouting Homestead. So from that standpoint, that would be an interesting one too.
That is a good one. Sorry, I apologize for the random awkward pause there as I try to organize all my windows. Homestead versus Plainfield. Both teams coming off losses, but they do have a get-right game in between there. Plainfield is hosting Perry Meridian on Friday before they play Homestead. Homestead is traveling to Fort Wayne Concordia the night before they play Plainfield. So, again, both have get-right games there. Both in not desperate need of a win, but certainly want an opportunity to wash the flavor of a bad lopsided loss out of their mouths. And what better way to do it than against another one of the top teams in the state? I mean, this is the one where the star power and the depth of the star power feels like maybe on both sides matches up reasonably well, relatively well. What do you make of it?
So what we haven't seen from Homestead yet is we haven't seen them win a basketball game the way that we saw them win 21 basketball games last year, which is Gabby Helsum and Whitney Ankenbrook from the 3-point line, and then closing in middle third with Maya Epps. Maya Epps, it wasn't because she was ineffective against Pike. I get at this point in time, I suppose we could just text up there and get the answer, but an undisclosed injury. She seemed fine in the Norwell game, but her sitting out the fourth quarter of the Pike game didn't allow us to see kind of that fourth quarter close that she's accustomed to. And Norwell obviously really keyed on her and making things very difficult for her in the Norwell game. So yeah, it's a bounce back game for Homestead also in the sense that I think this is them going to be not necessarily as worried about Plainfield as much as they are worried about Homestead. There has also been with Homestead, and this is, I think, something to watch. It's been well publicized that Delaney Knoll hasn't played yet. We all know how good Delaney Knoll is, and she's going to be super effective when she gets back, when she's fully healthy, and she will return. But Lee Bell has been really good for them. And Susie Perigo is playing big-time minutes, and Kendall McLaughlin isn't getting him as many minutes, and so now she's coming in and just absolutely just trying to get as many good plays that she can make in a 3-minute stretch, whereas last year might have been like a 5-minute stretch. But how Homestead continues to rotate through this stable of talent that they have, like something's got to get. It's kind of like the Pike story, right? These teams that we've said were so good was largely an opinion gathered on their depth. made to affect kind of a long season. But you can only play 5 of them at a time. And I don't know that Rod even knows who's winning these position battles right now. I'll say this. Right now, if I'm Homestead, I'm going to trust Aggie Bell. Like, she plays really well on the defensive side. She's not making mistakes. Like, she was putting such care in little things like ball reversals against the 1-3-1. Watch her. She ball fakes before she does it because she knows that if she doesn't ball fake, that Rosswurm or Saul Frank or Norris, or well, Norris plays the baseline, but Saul Frank, Dale, or Rosswurm are going to deflect the basketball. So such care in just almost just reversing the basketball. So she's getting more comfortable as it goes. And when you have the opportunity to play another deep basketball team, Aggie Bell or Susie Perigo or Kendall McLaughlin could find themselves in a very primary matchup that could affect the outcome of that 8 o'clock game. So that's me from a Homestead perspective.
Plainfield on the other side, obviously a lot goes through Hannah Menser, a lot goes through Berkeley Williams. Abrielle Dugan brings a lot offensively. I'm just, it's always a joy to watch those three play. Menser in particular, Berkeley Williams too. I mean, just it's a fun team to watch. They're deep. Again, they're navigating some things there without a couple pieces, but what does Plainfield have to do in order to take down Homestead?
I think they're going to play a man. And the reason why I think Plainfield will play Homestead man is it's easier to have scout specific tasks to carry out. Like, don't leave this shooter. When you play a zone, you need to worry about where all 9 other players are on the floor, and then be able to process the difference in individual scout and execute. So I think they're going to play man, which begs the immediate question is, I think we would all suspect Berkeley Williams is going to guard Maya Epps. Let's go. Let's go. You talked about it at the very beginning, watching Berkeley Williams play Lily Graves. I was not able to screen that basketball game. I will be in attendance for that 8 o'clock game to see Berkeley guard Maya. But that matchup on that side of the floor, Berkeley's defense on Maya, is worth the price of admission for the entire event because she ain't going to back down. And Maya is really ready to have a breakout game. You know, Helsum's broken out. Even Ankenbrook at times. She had a couple 6-0 runs, I think, in that Norwell game. Epps has yet to break out this year. And she entered the year as one of the favorites to be talked about and considered for Miss Basketball. People think it's a darn near certainty that she's going to be an Indiana All-Star. She signed her letter of intent to go to Louisville, so she's going to compete for Final Fours at a national level. She's going to want to do it, but between her and the basket, it's going to be Berkeley Williams. And I think that is, I'm not going to bury the lead here. Like, that's the most interesting thing in this 8 o'clock game is Berkeley guarding Maya.
And what's interesting is that against McCutcheon, Plainfield was able to kind of rotate people in there to help Berkeley. And they kind of took a team approach a little bit that was spearheaded by Berkeley on Graves. I don't think you can do that, at least not as aggressively. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it against a team like Homestead because of all those other names that you mentioned. Those are the kids who have breakout games. Like, you can't just leave Gabby Helsum. You can't just leave Ankenbrook. You know what I mean? Like, you got to – there's a lot of give and take there. So this is going to be a fascinating chess match to watch there. A potential X factor here is Caroline Pugh, the 5'11" forward. Yep. She has some size inside. I'm curious to see what she can do there against Homestead. Maybe she's the one. You know, you've been talking about where does that secondary, tertiary, whatever fourth option is scoring-wise come from. Maybe it's a kid like that is able to get things going inside. Or Mariah Armstrong, the kid who transferred over from Covenant Christian. Maybe it's one of those kids, one of those that you don't expect is the one that pops up and is able to tilt a heavyweight bout like this where it feels like the teams are pretty evenly matched here between Homestead and Plainfield. And honest to God, Danny, this could be round 1 of 2. We could see these again back in Indianapolis in February, which would be a lot of fun.
That's right. And Dugan had the game high against Brownsburg, I believe, too. And I'm not sure that you mentioned her. I think you probably did, but and I think, am I saying her name? Abrielle Dugan, right? Dugan. Yeah, Abrielle Dugan. And you had mentioned you gave some context too to say that she wasn't even supposed to play in that Brownsburg game,
right?
And had like a game high 18. So she
wouldn't naturally be ready for the season.
Yeah, so naturally she's going to be healthier. They're all going to have really big assignments. What they do with Menser, I think, will be interesting too. So, like, somebody's got to guard Helsum. I think the way that the Homestead season has played out to date, I don't think you can afford to leave Gabby Helsum, like, at all.
Do you put Berkeley Williams on Helsum, and do you put Menser on Epps just with Menser's length and see if that can disrupt her a little bit, or do you keep Menser on Helsum because of that length? Like, how do you approach that?
Well, we're gonna find out how wrong I am once I say this, because Kurt's really smart and he's gonna do what's best for his basketball team. But when you eliminate help from consideration for your defensive responsibilities, you don't generally waste your best defender on that. Because let's say that Berkeley's going to guard Gabby, you're blind to everything else that's happening on the floor. You're blind to where Epps is, you're blind to where Perigo is, you're blind to the catch, you're blind to post, you're blind to everything. And while Berkeley seems like the perfect person to do that, it also seems like Berkeley is set up to be the person that can best keep Maya Epps out of the paint. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised to see Hannah Menser follow around Gabby Helsum in a full face guard. Not to say that Hannah Menser isn't as good of a defender as Berkeley Williams, but I think they ask more of Hannah Menser on the offensive side. And sometimes coaches like to sometimes not put too much on a star player's plate in giving her an assignment like that. But there's always these little matchups where you're like, oh, how's this going to play out? I didn't know they were going to match up like that. A good example in the Homestead Pike game was Gabby Helsum guarding Marley Jeffers. Like, just kind of an interesting thing. Like, if Menser does in fact draw the Helsum assignment, well, that is also worth the price of admission. Like, that's going to be a fascinating thing too. But I do think that I do think that Plainfield is going to play a man. Because I think they trust the IQ of their team, the athleticism of their team, the execution of their team to be able to run scout specific man without having to worry about losing somebody when they cross over from one zone into another. That's where Gabby got a lot of space in the Norwell game. I had mentioned it now for the third time here. She would have to relocate herself from wing to middle third, and she got those top of the key threes. So I would expect Berkeley on Epps. I would expect Menser on Helsum, and we'll see how they match up from there.
It's going to be a great day of basketball. And real quickly too, I meant to mention this, or should have mentioned this on Saturday, but that Pike Homestead game was closer than that final score indicated. That thing was tied after 3 quarters. It was a dead heat going into the fourth, and Homestead managed to pull away. So reserve judgment. Just wanted to throw some important context on there. It's after the fact. It's revisionist history, I guess, on my part for what we said on the show, but should have mentioned that before. Pike played them pretty tight there for 4 quarters. But Saturday is going to be a great day of basketball. I'm off until then. Danny will be at the games on Saturday. We'll be back together probably on Sunday, I would assume, with our next live show to recap Sneakers with Santa. Anything else, Danny, that you want to touch on before we get on out of here?
Yeah, if you do go to that first game at Sneakers for Santa, by the way, the Clarksville Christian Tennessee team has a kid by the name of Lauren Hassel on the team. Mm-hmm. We had celebrated that Lola Lampley was one of the 10 finalists for the Naismith Award, which is the National High School Player of the Year in girls basketball. Also on that list is Lauren Hassel. And like, she's down to like UConn and Duke, and like, she is the real deal. And her going against Brooklyn Wren, who is also a 6'2", 6'3" kid that can score at 3 different levels and protect the rim. Wren probably a little bit better from the 3-point line. Hassel maybe a little bit better from around the rim. She's kind of known as being a finisher around the basket with both hands. But Hassel versus Wren, that's 9 stars that we're going to be watching right there. Like, I mean, Lauren Hassel is one of the 5. I mean, there's probably only 15 or 16 5-star athletes in the 26 class nationally, and one of them is going to be at Brownsburg playing against Brooklyn Wren, which is going to be super fun.
That'll be fantastic. So we have that going on. You're also going to have Lawrence Central Snyder going on that Saturday. Just so much going on with the event that Keith Holland is putting on there. Pike, Sneakers for Santa, Josh Sable's event over there at Brownsburg. Going to be a heck of a day of basketball, not to mention the couple of days of games we'll have in between there. We thank you all so much for watching. I'm amazed, Danny, that the viewer count actually went up as the episode progressed and we got later into the night. and encroached on 90 minutes. So you guys are awesome. You're amazing. And everybody watching on the rewatch, thank you so much. As always, the show rundown, clickable chapters down there at the bottom in the description, so you can skip to the spots where you want. I don't know why I'm saying this. It should have been at the beginning of the episode because now you've watched the whole thing. It's a waste of your time. But anyway, for future reference, you know that. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Addison, Norris, Vanessa, Rosswurm for joining us. Danny and I will be back with you guys on Sunday. Well, thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.